So today I want to explain to you how timeless shards or crafting recipes, whatever you want to call them, how they work. So someone in my Discord brought up to me that he could not find a good guide for how to use the timeless shards or what exactly to do, how they work. And I'm sure there probably are good guides out there, but in case you can't find them, I decided I'll just go ahead and make one real fast. So the timeless shards are recipes that you find in dungeons, although a dev said in an interview once that you find them from elite supply chests or something, but I think he was wrong and had outdated information, but it definitely confused the hell out of me. But either way, to the best of my knowledge, you get them from dungeons at a minimum, and the way that they work is they let you craft gear that you can control a perk and you can control an attribute. Now these recipes go into your rewards category of your inventory. They'll look like this: timeless glove shards, timeless robe shard, and let me show you how it works in the actual crafting station. So depending on what timeless shard you're using, you'll have to go to a different station. In the case of the one I'm going to look at, it was light armor, so I'm going to be going to the outfitting station. Once you have one of these in your inventory, it'll give you these new recipes, kind of like how voidbent armor works. Once you have one of these things in your inventory, all these recipes appear, and once it's not in your inventory, all these recipes disappear. So what happens here is you can control the stat, and the stat's like controlled by the recipe. So we got strength, and you can pick from all these strength ones. I have 2 different shards in here, so we get multiple recipes, but strength, dex, intelligence, focus. So say I want focus. All right, well, the gloves let me make 2 different types of gloves. I can get this gloves or these gloves. This one leans elemental. This one is a 50-50 split. Although, is this one... Oh, no, you get all 3, yeah. And then this one leans physical. So you got to pick, do you want it to lean physical? Do you want it to lean elemental or be a 50-50 split? And you get to choose the, is it focus, con, dex, whatever, the attribute. So once you do that, it's the same as any other infused silk or shadewalker armor. So it'll take 200. In the case for these ones, it takes 200 armoring to make these. But once you have that, it's the same thing as any of the ones down here, but you get to control the attribute, but then you also get to control the perk. So we go to here, and in my case, I'm going to be playing around with Divine Embrace in one of my builds, so I'm going to make one that uses Divine Embrace, and then you get to pick the mats to control the gear score, just like you normally would. We also need the crafting mod for the stat. You'll need 10 of them, which is also why these are raising in price in recent times. And then obviously it's going to consume the recipe, and you'll want to throw on Azoth in order to get the maximum number of gem slots and perks and all that. But actually, before I craft this, I got to remember, just like other stuff, you also want to put on your best gear for what you're making. So in my case, this is armoring, so I'm going to be putting on armoring gear. And then also I need to eat the armoring food, which I should have in here. Yeah, the spicy cabbage soup. Oh, I didn't mean to equip it. So use that. And then also I have an earring. I think it might already be... No, it's not already equipped. So there's an earring in here somewhere. God only knows where at this point. That gives me armoring. Oh, here's one. It's not even the one I normally use, I think, but there we go. So we got an earring with +5 armoring. I have all basic trophies, and so we combine all of that, and then we go to the Shadewalker that I wanted to make. Give it the best mats possible. Now we're at 592 to 600. So just like any other gear that you craft that is of this level, it works the exact same way, except that I control the attribute. But now I'm going to add that perk. Refreshing Divine Embrace. I'm going to be playing around with that some. And now it's going to have me add even more Azoth because the gear score is higher, so it's more likely. I don't know, it does that. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and craft it. It's the same as crafting anything else, where it kicks you out of the menu every single time you try the first time. It's super annoying. That bug's been in the game for literally like 2.5 months, and they still haven't fixed it. Oh, gosh. Oh, Amazon Games, what have you done? Why won't you fix it? Okay, Refreshing Divine Embrace. Give it the Azoth. I'll make sure all these are right. 592 to 600. And we're going to craft it, and it's going to kick me out again. Okay, I think I have the real bug now. There's a real bug where it just kicks you out over and over and over again. We'll try one more time. Okay. Oh, there we go. I think it's going to open my inventory. So that was a pretty good roll. I got Resilient, and that... Oh, man, that's fun. 597, Resilient. Got the perk that I wanted to try. Or, yeah, the perk. And I got the attribute that I wanted without having to just rely on RNG. So basically, long story short, after going through all this crap, is that these timeless shard recipes let you control an attribute and one perk, which makes it way easier to roll for 600 gear score stuff that you actually want. Whereas in the past, say you were making armor, you would have, or earrings, for example, you would have to pick the perk that you want and then hope that you get the stats that you want, because stats were more likely to roll than the perk, because there's so many perks versus so few of things. But you can go in here and type timeless. Easiest way to look through these in the auction house is pick one of these, and then just go back, and then in here, near the bottom, it has all the timeless stuff, so you can go through, and certain ones are really expensive. Any of the jewelry ones are worth a fortune because it makes it so much easier to get the jewelry that you want, the 600 gear score. Once you start getting to other stuff like fire staff, it's like free basically. Or if you want shoes, and it'll tell you when you mouse over it. Wait, that's sword shard. I thought I said shoes. Maybe I missed. Oh, I clicked the wrong one. I clicked the wrong one. Let's go to boots. It'll say right here, the medium boots. So you know before you buy what type it is. It'll also say in this description. So make sure you're not getting the correct armor type for what you want when you buy these. You don't want to get mixed up. So armor's gonna be kind of expensive. The jewelry is insanely expensive. Weapons are not very expensive. And that's just because of how people craft and how many things you have to craft and rerolls and all that. So then what does this mean for voidbent armor? Well, if you're ever thinking about getting voidbent armor, now is probably not the time to get voidbent armor, because if you can just find an armorer that you actually trust, it'll be way better to just use timeless shards and roll for what you want, because the biggest thing people get voidbent for is the easy luck roll, but now that luck roll is absolutely guaranteed with a chunk of adderstone, which might be, no, they're still cheap, they're super cheap now, so you can guarantee the luck on your armor instead of using the voidbent. So if that's what you're after, the voidbent, you can just save yourself an insane amount of money by getting, you know, timeless breastplate. It's the recipe's 185. It costs like, what is it, like 2,000 to craft, or 3,000, 4,000 to craft. I mean, that costs more than that actually, but cheaper than voidbent, and you get your luck and you get it with a good armor like 590 to 600 gear score. You know, you can still get voidbent. It's cheaper than it used to be, but you might as well roll for something that's better long-term, because the voidbent is not best in slot. It is good, but especially in PvP, it is not best in slot. There are better options. So, you know, that's something to think about. You know, voidbent might not be the play anymore in light of these options. Also, for you guys who run dungeons a lot, keep in mind this is a great way to get your money back from the money you spend to get into those. So if you don't have the ores, people will pay like 2,500 coins per slot to open the dungeon for somebody or some group or something like that. When you pay that, you might be able to get your money back or even make money if you find the timeless shards, especially the jewelry ones, but certain ones are worth a lot, certain armor pieces. So definitely keep an eye out for these when you are doing the dungeon. If you get one, just remember to go check what it's worth and see if you can get a refund basically on your orb. It's definitely an easy way to get that money back if you do happen to get a good one of these from your dungeon runs. That's pretty much everything I think to tell you about the timeless shards. I tried to include every single thing I could possibly think of that relates to it, any tips and stuff about using them or collecting them or getting your money back with them. That's pretty much everything. I personally am using these a lot. I'm going to be re-rolling my gear, and if you are able to craft, if you have armoring 200 or whatever, especially with the trophies on top of it, it's just the best way to change up what you're doing. So I'm going from being a paladin to being a full, as we jokingly called it, glass band-aid healer, with a little bit of con though, just a little bit. And in order to do that, timeless shards are the play. Like, I'm going to be using timeless shards for every single piece. I just made those gloves. I have a medium chest piece already. I just got to stop being lazy and just go bang out the last pieces and I'm done. And then I'm good enough full healer now, because you can control the perk. So it's like, I might not have the best set in the world, but I can easily respec using timeless shards, and just like the snap of your fingers, just be like, hey, I've got a really good set now. It's not the best in slot, but it's good in slot. It's great in slot, you know. It'll work until I get best in slot later, if I even decide to stick with that build. It's a great way to try out builds, because you do it, it doesn't cost you that much to try out a build, then you have a decent build for whatever you're trying, and then you can just try it, and you play with it for a few weeks, and if you're like, man, I really don't want to be a full healer, well, you haven't, you know, spent all that time and money getting best in slot yet. You've had really good stuff that'll tie you over until you find out whether or not you really want to do that long term before you go ahead and dump, you know, 100, 200K into rolling gear trying to get best in slot. Well, hopefully this video helped you out. If it did, consider subscribing. At the time of me posting this, I post New World content all the time, guys, tips, tricks, helpful information, news, updates, what the devs are saying, all that. I'm also trying to diversify into other videos that are entertaining, but for the most part, it's going to be, right for the time being, like 70, 80% New World content. So if that sounds interesting to you, consider subscribing. But that's it for Timeless Shards. That's pretty much everything I'm aware of for them. Hopefully I didn't miss something critical here. And now you have a better idea of how to use Timeless Shards effectively in your gameplay in New World.